If loving them feels like a high, it's because you're addicted to the emotion, not the person. And that high is designed to destroy you. That sentence isn't just a dramatic line, it's the truth behind why dismissive avoidance feels so intoxicating. At first, their attention feels like a reward, like a prize you've been waiting your whole life to receive. You might even convince yourself that this connection is different, deeper, and more intense than anything you've ever felt. But the reality is, the rush you experience isn't love. It's a dopamine spike, your brain responding to a pattern of emotional reward and withdrawal that mimics addiction. And the reason it feels so addictive is because your nervous system is being trained to chase the next hit, the next moment of connection, the next time they finally show up for you. The problem is, dismissive avoidants don't offer consistent emotional availability. They don't give you the stable love you crave. Instead, they offer glimpses of warmth, then disappear, leaving you craving more. This is where the cycle begins. You experience a high when they are close, and a low when they pull away. Your mind starts to associate their presence with validation, and their absence with a deep, aching void. This pattern is eerily similar to what happens in narcissistic relationships. The intensity feels like love, but it's actually a psychological trap. You're not falling in love with them, you're falling in love with the emotional roller coaster they create. When they return after distancing themselves, your brain interprets it as proof that they still care, that they still want you, that they still need you. It feels like relief, like a rescue. But this is the Hoover effect in disguise. They return just enough to keep you hooked, to keep you believing that you can win them over, that you can be the one who changes them. And because you're addicted to the emotional highs, you keep coming back for more. You start to believe that their inconsistency is just a personality trait you can tolerate, rather than a pattern that will slowly destroy your sense of self-worth. The worst part is that the more you chase them, the more you lose yourself. You begin to rearrange your life around their moods and availability. You stop making plans, you stop prioritizing your own needs, and you start over-analyzing every message, every silence, every detail. Your life becomes consumed by the pursuit of an emotional high that never lasts. And when the high fades, you're left feeling empty, desperate, and ashamed, like you're the one who failed. That's the truth about loving a dismissive avoidant. It feels addictive because it is. It's a cycle of emotional reward and withdrawal that hijacks your brain and teaches you to crave the chaos. And the more you stay, the more it destroys you, your confidence, your peace, and your ability to love yourself. Because real love doesn't feel like a drug. Real love feels safe, consistent, and nurturing. If what you're experiencing feels like a high, it's time to wake up and see the pattern for what it really is. When a dismissive avoidant enters your life, it doesn't happen slowly. It happens like a storm. They come in confident, charming, and intense, like they were always meant to appear at the exact moment you were most vulnerable. They don't just talk to you, they make you feel seen, like you've been invisible your whole life, and finally someone is looking straight into your soul. They make you feel special, chosen, like the universe somehow aligned to bring you together. And the truth is, they're not doing this because they're deeply in love with you. They're doing it because they know exactly how to trigger your brain's reward system. That initial connection creates a rush. Your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that makes people feel high when they fall in love, or even when they get addicted to something destructive. This is the same feeling victims describe in narcissistic love bombing. It feels intoxicating. It feels like destiny. And you don't just fall in love, you become addicted. Because when the brain gets a taste of that kind of intensity, it starts craving it like a drug. You begin to believe that you found something rare, something that no one else could ever offer you. But the reality is, you didn't fall for them. Your brain got hijacked. You were triggered into a state of emotional dependency without even realizing it. You were trained to chase the feeling, not the person. Then, just when you begin to feel safe, the pattern shifts. The dismissive avoidant pulls away. They withdraw, disappear, go silent, and suddenly the intensity that made you feel alive becomes a void that consumes you. You're left staring at your phone, replaying conversations, analyzing every detail. Your mind immediately tries to fix it, because the truth is you've already been conditioned to believe that their love is worth fighting for. Your brain interprets withdrawal as proof that they're important. In your mind, if someone disappears, it must mean they're worth the effort. It's a twisted kind of logic, but it's the logic of trauma bonding. This is the same mechanism that occurs in narcissistic cycles. When the narcissist disappears, the victim's brain creates a story. They must be thinking about me. They must be going through something. They'll come back. I just need to wait. The absence becomes a challenge. It becomes proof that the person matters. And you begin to believe that if you can just figure out the puzzle, you can win them back permanently. You don't see it as manipulation. You see it as love. You don't see it as control. You see it as destiny. But they're not testing you, they're training you. They're training your brain to accept emotional inconsistency as normal. They're training you to crave their attention like a reward you must earn. Then, just as the pain becomes unbearable, they return, and this return feels like winning the lottery. You feel relief, validation, hope. Suddenly the world makes sense again. You tell yourself, they came back. They must care. Your body relaxes. Your heart stops racing. You feel like you've been rescued from a nightmare. But what you're actually experiencing is a classic hoovering effect. This is the same behavior seen in narcissistic patterns. They disappear, they return, and the return is strategically timed to keep you hooked. They don't return because they've changed. They return because they know you're addicted to the emotional rush. They know you're desperate for validation. They know your brain is craving the dopamine spike that comes from being chosen again. And because of that, every return becomes a new hit. Every reconnection becomes a fresh dose of emotional high. You think, they changed, they love me now. But you're not receiving genuine love. You're receiving a temporary dopamine fix that keeps you trapped in the cycle. The addiction never ends because the pattern repeats. The return gives you hope, and that hope keeps you loyal. It keeps you waiting. It keeps you trying. It keeps you believing that the next time will be different. The dangerous truth is that this cycle is designed to destroy you slowly, quietly, and convincingly. The dismissive avoidant doesn't have to be overtly cruel or intentionally malicious. Their pattern of withdrawal and return creates the same effect as narcissistic abuse because the result is the same. You become emotionally dependent, you lose your boundaries, and you start to live for their approval. The more you chase the high, the more you sacrifice your own needs. You begin to compromise your values, your time, your peace, and even your self-respect. You start to measure your worth based on whether they respond, whether they show up, whether they choose you in that moment. And when they don't, the emptiness feels unbearable, because your brain has been trained to interpret their absence as rejection, not as a reflection of their own emotional unavailability. You begin to believe that if you just love them harder, if you just prove yourself more, if you just become the perfect partner, they will finally stay. But the truth is, this is a trap. This is the same trap victims of narcissistic abuse fall into. It's the illusion of love wrapped around the reality of emotional starvation. And the worst part is that you may not even recognize the damage until it's too late. Because dismissive avoidants don't usually scream. They don't always act aggressively. They don't always insult you or degrade you. Instead, they do something far more dangerous. They make you question your own sanity. You start wondering, am I overreacting? Am I too sensitive? Maybe they really are just busy. Maybe they really do love me. This is the confusion that keeps you in the cycle. It's the same confusion that keeps victims of narcissists trapped for years. It's the brain's attempt to make sense of inconsistency by creating excuses for the person who hurts you. And every excuse you create strengthens the bond. Every time you justify their behavior, you give them more control. Every time you stay, you teach your brain that emotional instability is normal and that you must tolerate it to be loved. But the truth is that love should not feel like a roller coaster. Love should not feel like a drug. Love should not make you chase, beg, or shrink yourself to fit someone else's emotional availability. Real love feels safe, consistent, and nourished. Real love doesn't make you feel like you're walking on eggshells. Real love doesn't disappear without explanation and return like a reward. Real love doesn't make you addicted to the pain of their absence. If you find yourself constantly craving their attention, constantly feeling like you're walking around in a state of emotional withdrawal, then you're not in a healthy relationship. You're in a psychological trap, and the only way to break free is to recognize the pattern for what it is. You didn't fall in love with them. You fell into a cycle of addiction. You didn't lose them because you weren't enough. You lost yourself because the relationship was never designed to nourish you. So if you're watching this and feeling that familiar ache, remember this: the high you felt at the beginning was never about love. It was about being manipulated into a pattern that keeps you coming back. Every time they return, you're not winning them over, you're getting another dose of emotional reward that keeps you trapped. Every time they withdraw, you're not being punished, you're being trained. And the moment you understand that, you begin to reclaim your power. The moment you realize the cycle isn't love, it's addiction, you begin to free yourself from it. Because once you see the truth, you can stop chasing the high and start choosing yourself. When a dismissive avoidant pulls away, it's not just silence, it's a weapon. The silence that breaks you is not accidental. Dismissive avoidants use emotional distance as control. They don't need to yell, insult, or accuse you. They simply disappear. They withhold connection. And in that absence, they create chaos inside your mind. When you're used to the high of their attention, the sudden withdrawal feels like a plunge into darkness. Your brain becomes obsessed with one question: why did they leave? You begin to replay every conversation, analyzing every word, searching for hidden meanings, trying to find the reason for the distance. You look for clues in old messages. You scrutinize the smallest change in tone. You obsess over the smallest detail. Your mind becomes a detective, trying to solve the mystery of a person who doesn't want to be solved. And the truth is, you're not just trying to understand their behavior, you're trying to regain control. Because the silence leaves you feeling powerless, and your brain hates powerlessness. This is the exact same pattern seen in narcissistic abuse. Narcissists create confusion to control you. They make you question your reality, your worth, your sanity. They manipulate you by withdrawing and then returning with affection, making you feel like you're constantly on a roller coaster. The dismissive avoidant doesn't have to be malicious to do the same thing. Their silence creates a vacuum that your brain tries to fill. You start believing that if you can just figure out what you did wrong, you can fix the relationship. You tell yourself, if I just love them more, they'll stop pulling away. But you're not being ignored, you're being conditioned. That silence is training your brain to respond to emotional distance with increased obsession. It's teaching you that the way to get love is to chase it, to beg for it, to earn it. And because your brain is wired to seek reward, it begins to crave the emotional whiplash. The more they pull away, the more you feel the urge to win them back. The silence becomes a trigger. It makes you feel desperate, insecure, and emotionally addicted. And the more this cycle repeats, the more you start losing yourself. You begin to stop prioritizing your life because your life becomes centered around them. You stop making plans because you're waiting for them to decide when they want to show up. You stop investing in your own growth because you're investing in the hope that they'll finally become the person you need. You become emotionally dependent. Your happiness becomes tied to their attention. Your rue becomes dependent on whether they text you back. Your self-worth becomes dependent on whether they choose you. You compromise your boundaries because you're afraid of losing them. You ignore your own needs, your own values, and your own peace. You make excuses for their behavior. You tell yourself they're just scared of intimacy, or they're just not ready. But those excuses are a way to justify the pain you're experiencing. You keep hoping they'll become the person you need, because you've already invested so much in the relationship. You've already given so much of yourself. And the truth is, you're not just hoping, they're training you to hope. They're training you to accept the idea that love is always conditional. The real damage happens when you realize that you've lost your identity in the process. The more you chase them, the more you lose yourself. You forget who you were before them. You forget what made you happy. You forget what you wanted. You forget what you deserve. You begin to live in a constant state of emotional anxiety, always waiting for the next withdrawal, the next silence, the next return. Your mind becomes exhausted, and your heart becomes numb. You start to feel like a shell of yourself. And the scariest part is that you may not even notice it happening until it's too late. Because when you're in the cycle, it feels normal. It feels like love. It feels like what relationships are supposed to be like. But it's not love. It's a pattern designed to keep you addicted. It's a pattern designed to keep you chasing something you can never truly have. You're not in a relationship. You're in a cycle. And that brings us to the final truth. Loving a dismissive avoidant is a narcissistic cycle. It follows the same pattern as narcissistic abuse: love bombing, withdrawal, hoovering, repeat. It creates addiction, trauma, bonding, and self-destruction. It trains your brain to crave pain disguised as love. It teaches you that love means chasing someone who doesn't fully want you. It teaches you that your worth is determined by whether you can win them. And it's designed to keep you trapped, because once you're addicted, you'll keep returning, hoping the next cycle will be different. But the cycle never ends because the pattern is not about you. It's about control. It's about keeping you emotionally dependent so you never feel free enough to leave. You didn't lose them. You lost yourself, and that's the real cost. The cost isn't the relationship. The cost is your peace, your identity, and your ability to love yourself without needing someone else's approval. And the moment you recognize that, the moment you see the pattern clearly, you begin to break free. Because the first step to healing is understanding that you were never meant to be loved like this. You were meant to be loved in a way that makes you feel whole, not hollow. If your love feels addictive, that's your brain warning you. Not because you're weak, not because you're too sensitive, and not because you're overreacting. It's warning you because you're in a relationship pattern that your nervous system recognizes as dangerous. Addiction isn't always about substances. It can be about people. It can be about emotional intensity. And when your brain is repeatedly exposed to a cycle of reward and withdrawal, it starts to form a dependency. It starts to crave the very thing that hurts it. That's what happens when you love a dismissive avoidant. You're not just experiencing heartbreak, you're experiencing a pattern that's been designed to hijack your emotional system. The highs feel incredible. The lows feel unbearable. And in between, you're left chasing the next hit, like someone addicted to a drug they can't stop taking. The truth is, love shouldn't feel like that. Love should feel stable. It should feel consistent. It should feel like a safe place you can return to without fear of being punished, abandoned, or ignored. Real love doesn't keep you on edge. Real love doesn't make you feel like you're walking on eggshells. Real love doesn't make you question your worth or your sanity. Real love doesn't make you feel like you have to chase it, earn it, or fight for it. Real love makes you feel secure. It makes you feel valued. It makes you feel respected. And most importantly, real love doesn't make you lose yourself. So if you've been feeling addicted to someone who disappears and returns like a drug dealer, it's time to wake up. It's time to stop romanticizing the pain. Because here's the truth. If your relationship is built on emotional inconsistency, it's not love. It's manipulation. It's a pattern that keeps you addicted to the cycle. And the moment you recognize this, you begin to reclaim your power. You begin to realize that the reason you feel so consumed by this person is not because they're irreplaceable. It's because your brain has been trained to associate them with emotional reward. It's not about them. It's about the addiction. You deserve someone who doesn't make you feel like a drug. You deserve someone who doesn't disappear when you need them the most. You deserve someone who doesn't treat you like a prize to be earned. You deserve someone who shows up consistently, who communicates clearly, who respects your boundaries, and who loves you in a way that doesn't require you to sacrifice your identity. You deserve someone who doesn't make you question your worth. You deserve someone who makes you feel safe. And the most important part, you deserve this. Because you are worthy of it. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken. You are simply human. You have needs. You have feelings. You have a heart that wants to be loved in a way that is real, not conditional. And when you finally accept that, you begin to see the pattern clearly. You begin to understand that the pain you've been experiencing isn't proof that you're in love. It's proof that you're in a cycle. It's proof that your brain is being trained to accept instability as normal. It's proof that you're being manipulated into believing that the chaos is worth it. This is why the wake-up call is so important. Because once you wake up, you can start to make different choices. You can start to stop chasing the high. You can start to stop believing that the next return will be the one that changes everything. You can start to set boundaries. You can start to prioritize your mental health. You can start to choose peace over pain. And you can start to rebuild your life around stability, not drama. It won't be easy. The addiction is real. The withdrawal is real. You will feel the urge to go back. You will feel the temptation to chase the high one more time. But the moment you understand that the cycle is not love, you gain the strength to walk away. Because here's the final truth. You didn't lose them. You lost yourself. And that's the real cost. The cost of staying in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant isn't just emotional pain. It's your identity. It's your confidence. It's your self-worth. It's your ability to trust yourself. It's your peace. It's your happiness. And the moment you realize that, you begin to understand that leaving isn't a failure. Leaving is a victory. Leaving is a reclaiming of your life. Leaving is a way to say to yourself, I am not going to be addicted to someone who treats me like an option. So if you're watching this and you're feeling that familiar ache, listen to your brain. Listen to your heart. Listen to the warning signals you've been ignoring. Your love feeling addictive is not a compliment. It's a red flag. It's your body telling you that this relationship is not healthy. And you have a choice. You can keep chasing the high, hoping that the next time will be different. Or you can wake up and choose something better. You can choose someone who loves you consistently. You can choose yourself, because at the end of the day, the only person who can save you from this cycle is you. And the moment you decide to stop chasing the high and start chasing the truth, you begin to heal. You begin to rebuild. You begin to become whole again. You begin to remember who you are. And that is the most powerful thing you can do. Stop chasing the high. Start chasing the truth.